Hi and welcome to video 6 of this PSMT guideline series. And in this one I'm going to talk about the communicate criterion and our understanding of that criterion and how we'll be marking it. So let's go there now. Okay, so this is the communicate criterion. It's out of 4 marks, which gives us a 4, 7, 5, 4 out of 20 task. And this is going to be quite short, this video, because there's not a lot to talk about here and I've only got a couple of slides. So you see there's 2 criterion in the communicate criterion here. And again, just to give you a benchmark of what I would consider trivial and easy to get to, really 2 is quite simple. If you've done everything else without thinking about communicate, you've probably got a 2 at least, and 3 isn't too hard. To get to the 4 isn't hard if you're a precise person, and if not, then maybe you just need to be careful and make sure you do all the important stuff. So let's talk about these criterion because they're a little bit trickier than the last ones because they involve a lot more pieces in each criterion. The first one is correct use of appropriate technical vocabulary, procedural vocabulary, and conventions to develop a response. So what we're asking you to consider here is that you use the right language, and not only the mathematical language, but also just general day-to-day language, and also the language of the task sheet, and the situation that you're working within. So just make sure that you line everything up. I would have and be aware of the task sheet. I would know the cognitive verbs relevant to this task. Make sure that you know the current mathematical language from the topic you're working in, and then just make sure that when you write, that you write using appropriate language throughout. If you make a few mistakes here, you're really probably still eligible for a 4. But if it's constantly happening, or if you've got one of the mathematical terms wrong, then you might have more of a problem. The second dot point, which is a little bit bigger again, coherent and concise organisation of the response. I might just stop there. I'll do it a bit at a time. So coherent means that it's clear, legible, easy to follow. So in this case, you might have all your graphs, tables, data, information, images labelled. So image 1, graph 3, and then when you refer to those, you say, as shown in graph 3, blah, 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 so that we can clearly reference the right graph and we know exactly what you're talking about. Concise means that you haven't overstated things, that you're not just waffling. Okay, we are after a mathematical report here, so we want you just to tell us the facts and provide the evidence and then finalise with a solution. You don't have to waffle about. So be very specific and concise, and that will help you stick within your 2,000 words as well. The second part there is appropriate to the genre. The genre is a mathematical report. So this is where I say, again, it's a report. So there's going to be some paragraph writing in here, but it's a mathematical report. We're expecting graphs, or we're expecting tables with data and information there. We're expecting you to explain things using appropriate mathematical language, etc. The third one, including a suitable introduction, body, and conclusion. We've talked about this briefly before, but just make sure you've clearly got an introduction and a conclusion. The body probably sorts itself out. And lastly, which can be read independently of the task sheet. So just make sure that as you lay it out, so your introduction is probably going to start something like, in this task, we aim to show, or this task will aim to show, blah, blah, blah. And it clearly labels it so that we can read it without actually having to know what's on the task sheet. To fix that one, give it to somebody and get them to read it without knowing what the task is about. So there's 4 things there for you to consider, and just make sure that you really clearly have. The 1-2 strands below have got a bit of information, but you see how easy they are to meet. Now I'm just going to shoot across to one last page to go through some tips here. So a good communication mark relies on correct use of grammar and language, both natural and mathematical language, as I've talked about, and proofread in capitals. Make sure that you proofread it. If you're working in Word, it will tell you when you've made mistakes. Incorporation of an introduction and conclusion. Make sure the introduction allows the task to be independently read of the task sheet. Make sure the conclusion provides a short summary and a reference to the solution. Now, my layout's not very good there because the A somehow has just floated across the page. Appropriate body paragraphs that address the task, but make sure the paragraphs aren't too long. An organised structure that's logically ordered. Clarity of purpose, so that there's no waffle in it, there's nothing there that doesn't need to be there. Proofread again, and then read the report out loud to yourself to identify any parts that don't make sense if you need to. So there's some information on proofread. There's some information on communicate, and hopefully that helps. Thanks for watching.